Commas and Coordinate Adjectives by Jeannie Meadows for Belhaven University in Jackson, Mississippi. The Watsons Go to Birmingham, 1963. In this book, we found some sentences, and I'm going to read them to you. And as I'm sure such a fine, intelligent-looking family as this one. In the other sentence, we had to, because right on the front of the player in big red letters, it said TTAB-700 Ultra Glide. Now with these sentences, as this one, I am sure such a fine, intelligent-looking family as this one, contains coordinate adjectives. Fine, intelligent-looking are adjectives. On the next sentence, we had to, because right on the front of the player in big red letters, it said TTAB-700 Ultra Glide. These contain cumulative adjectives. Big red. If we are describing something with coordinate adjectives, as I am sure such a fine, intelligent-looking family as this one, and if we are describing something with cumulative adjectives, we had to, because right on the front of the player in big red letters, it said TTAB-700 Ultra Glide. So what's the relationship, you may ask, between commas and adjectives? Well, when I have coordinating adjectives, those are ones that describe the same noun. Then I do use a comma. Now, to give you, something to think about on coordinate, think about you have to coordinate a party for your football team. You want to coordinate everything to be on task and in the same on the same focus, and that's the football team. Well, these adjectives are focusing in and describing the one noun, which is family. So we use a comma to separate fine from intelligent looking. Now when I'm describing this, when I'm describing a cumulative adjective, the one that does not describe the same noun, I'm not going to use a comma. We had to, because right on the front of the player in the big red letters, it said TTAB-700 Ultra Glide. Well, you would think that big and red are describing the letters, but big is describing red and red's describing the letters. So they are accumulating on each other. They are building up. So when can I use these commas? Let's look at these sentences. I saw a big green tractor cutting hay. Now I want to give you a few minutes and think about this. Are these adjectives building on one another, or are they coordinate? Are they both describing the same noun? I say this one would not have a comma because big, green is building on one another. Now let's look at the next one. My parents won't let me play that violent, bloody video game. I believe we would need a comma, violent, bloody, and it's describing the game. So if I read this, if I took one of these words out, one of these adjectives, My parents won't let me play that Violet video game. Does it still make sense? Can it stand alone? Yes. So since it can stand alone, we have to put a comma in it. I sat outside last night and saw shiny, sparkly stars. Okay, let's see if we could take one of these out and see if it's a coordinate. I sat outside last night and saw shiny stars. I sat outside last night and saw sparkly stars. They can stand alone, so we would put an adjective, a comma in there between the adjectives. On the last one, I want you to write down what you think, and we will talk about it at the end. Now, the rules for using these commas with multiple adjectives. Use a comma between adjectives describing a common noun. That's coordinate. It's common. You have a common ground there, which is a common noun. And, as I am sure such a fine, intelligent-looking family as this one. Those are two adjectives describing a common noun. Avoid a comma between adjectives that do not describe the same noun. We had to, because right on the front of the player, in the big red letters, it said TTAB-700 Ultra Glide. Now, using the following sentences from the Watsons Go to Birmingham, I want you to place a comma in the coordinate adjectives. Leave the ones without coordinate adjectives blank. I want you to do this on your own, and we're going to check the example one, and then we're going to go over these. Okay, let's go. Just go down your paper just a little bit more. I want you to create two sentences with coordinate adjectives. For example, I went and saw an exciting, fantastic movie called Finding Dora. Now, these are coordinate adjectives. Either one of these can be left out, and it will still make sense. Once I was walking down a trail and got lost in the deep, dark woods. It would still make sense if I took out one of the adjectives. Now, I want you to also create two sentences with cumulative adjectives. I live in a big red house. Now, if I took big out, I live in a red house, you wouldn't know it was the big house, would you? And if I said I live in a big house, you wouldn't know it was a red house. I like to swim in icy cold water. I like to swim in icy cold water. You wouldn't know I like to swim in icy water if I didn't say cold. These are built on each other. To make two sentences underneath the activity we just did, and we are going over these in class.